All right, welcome to a new stream. So, we're picking up where we left off yesterday. We were working on this scene, which is a competition entry for a challenge called Endless Engines, hosted by the Punisher. He has a channel and he holds these competitions every once in a while, and he put up this example file that we've been working on. So, if we switch over to see what we had where we left off in Blender, the idea today would be, let's get these towers designed out in the background. I'm going to see right here in the main file that we had built out a whole section over here that actually includes the model that was developed on the stream yesterday. So to take a quick look at that, we'll see that we'll populate this area down here, inspired by an older city that has then had a city built on top of it, basically. And this lower level of the city is going to be represented out by these type of buildings derived from photographs of Italy. This is a really basic model that can then be, we can add some cosmetics to it, basically like little more vegetation, some people, or some fire hydrant on the street. Like we can add in things that are close to seen or being seen on camera. So we'll go ahead and close that. We have all that packaged as one collection, so that here in the main file, we can go to File, Append, and we just want to bring in the one that has a material right here, and we'll bring in that whole collection for building one. This way, by appending into this Blender file, it's actually linked, so I won't be able to make any changes to it, but it'll actually run more efficiently on this file here. I'm going to go ahead and, it looks like I'm just freezing for a second. There we are. I brought in more than I meant to, so I can delete these entities and these extra cameras. Other geometries I don't need. And now dive into that collection on the right hand side right here, building one. Select objects. Bring it up above my ground plane. You can see this from a side view. The file is very large for the competition entry because it's only 5 seconds, but the vehicle in the animation travels really fast. So I'm using these posts over here to set my pacing. Although right now in this keyframe, I can see that we haven't actually hit the road yet. The road starts more around right. Oh, we actually don't have a road at the moment. There it is. We go back through right there. We're on top of water. And here we transition. We can start having some buildings right here where this corner starts out. So I'd like it more to be like a platform with maybe some sort of like sculpture or tower on it. Little vertical element right there. And then move on to the buildings. So with that frame set, I'll go ahead and save. And move on over to select my building. So we can again get that from the whole collection. And move that building over in place. Just out there. Great. I think the vegetation also came in weird, or came off the building, and I wasn't meaning for that to happen, but I can go over here and I have the ivy under their own collection. So I can select the objects. Actually, I'll go ahead and delete the stems, and I'm just going to keep the leaves. And make the file run a bit smoother, because we won't really see the stems, but it'd be nice to see some vegetation along with the building. And these are really even having created this as an asset would have probably been a better way to go about this, but I do plan on replacing this anyway. But for now, it's sort of a placeholder, unless maybe for the background it can serve. Let's see. So now we can select the whole piece. Now that we have those in place, rotate so it aligns with the edge over there. And then we can go back into the camera view, see that we want the building to start up just a bit sooner. I am testing a new setup if anyone is coming in online, and can let me know in the chat or in the comments if everything is running smoothly. Or if you happen to find any glitches or any stutters or anything like that. Okay. So our first building right there. With that in place, I'm going to move on to the real part now. The real purpose of this stream here is to, in this shot, have a tower right next to it that basically right from here, I can use this building in relation to the building right next to it to kind of start developing a language here for the old city and the new city above. And this new city above, we have these reference images we've been working off of in order to sort of make this container aggregation and bridging and towering that happens over a very neglected ground level. So I like this as well, having the top of tree lines to sort of be like a canopy that separates going up versus whatever's covered or protected underneath. So we're going to focus in on the tower design, which is essentially going to take us from designing a container. We start off with a cube and just stretch that through. We'll talk about this section down here in a little bit. We can stretch that out more or less to the proportions that we like to see, and we can just start making cuts into this. But actually, in order to start doing that, I'm going to use the help of an AI generator to just get something that's similar to the other thing that we were just looking at, the reference image. So we can get a container that sort of has pipes coming in and out of it, maybe has some lights glowing on the side, and just start using AI to kind of help inform like maybe how placement should happen rather than go off straight off a photo. We're going to try this out. So we can use dream texture right here. We go to the depth model. I'm not going to do the update. That's going to take too long. We'll go to concept art. We'll stick to environment and we'll put in a subject, futuristic shipping container. Pipes, steampunk. Steampunk is just a kind of like a futuristic fiction where what if steam is a replacement for electricity, I guess, basically. And we'll put light bars, cyberpunk. Let's see if we can cross the two. We then make the container as big as we can in our screen. So we can get that texture applied to it. Now perhaps it might even better to get like I'll set up this camera as an orthographic camera by going over here into the camera settings and setting it to orthographic. That way I can get, you know, the most real estate for each face on this image. So next we go into face selection mode. Select these three faces so we can focus on those. And we can run the AI. I'm going to go ahead and save real quick. There we are. And we'll keep the genre to... I'll actually switch this to cyberpunk. See how that works. And we'll put depth and color. The reason we're going to put depth and color is because what's going to happen right now is we're going to be calculating the depth in the scene. So essentially it fades out from the front of the object to the back, from here to here. And that gives a visual image or visual representation of how far away things are or which way things are facing. So if we go into the material preview, we should be able to see we did get a texture from the AI, but it's really bare bones. But this is what I figured, is we're going to have to go in here and start adding some loop cuts. So at least we can use that right there which the AI has created for us, to basically start setting this up. And you can read the units that you're moving at on the top left. So right over here it says edge slide. On the top left, right under file on the screen. I'm trying to get my mouse over there. Right here. It just kind of disappears when I hover over it. Top left. So if I bring it back, we see right there, we have that value changing. Edge slide negative 0.9. And if I hover over here, we can see it's negative 0.68. So I'll go ahead and type that in so that I can go on the other side and type that same number in, 0.68 or negative 0.68. And I can continue to do that right here if I get to the top. Here it's a different value, so I'll just kind of square it out and put negative 0.84. Do the same value for the bottom. Just kidding, it's 0.84 this time. Okay, so now we have our two doors set up right here, and we have our marquee, our sort of frame of the container. So I'm going to select these two faces. I'm going to hit E on the keyboard to extrude inward. And I could do a bit more to the side as well. This typically we want to keep that marquee all the way around. So I can bring a loop cut over here and a loop cut to the other side. And just slide that over so it matches. You could do this through mirror modifiers too, but I kind of want the aesthetic where if everything has a little bit of variation, it just makes the render look the geometry will look a little bit less perfect, especially with like photoreal textures on it. So having a little bit of just nuanced difference like that can also just kind of help it not feel so much like a render at the end. Granted, all this is going to be in motion, but I'm not too... When it comes to visual effects, like speed is probably quicker than getting your units right. So if you can just do it visually and you're good enough with that, then you're good. At least that's how I'm deciding to go about it. I'm just kind of doing what looks right here. Okay, I'm going to go into our camera again. And now we'll select all the faces in view. And we'll just hit project dream texture once again, but I'm going to go into advanced actually and change from LMS discrete to Euler discrete. I just happen to see that that works a bit better for me. All right, so we're getting something a bit closer. So granted, I mean, it's not the cleanest thing, but it's fine. We can work with it. We got some horizontal lines kind of creating some grooves. So we'll set that up right here. Set these two lines and not extrude because that'll create like a flat surface. What we actually do is add in another loop cut above and below that. And we can grab these middle lines, and rather than extrude, we can hit G to move them outward. There we go. And now we can put some cylinders through it. So within edit mode, I can hit Shift right click to change the 3D cursor so that whenever I hit Shift A to add any objects, they'll originate right there. I can scale this down, select that top face. Switch to face mode here. Select that top face. Hit extrude. Just move that slightly upward. We see here this one gets kind of like bigger there. So we can just kind of roll with that. Bring that upward still. Make it shorter. And extrude once more before moving. Just a little bit. And then scale down. And then extrude that. Cool. Maybe I want to do something similar at the top. It seems like on one side, it's like a rod that connects. I mean, granted, this is an AI generated image. It doesn't relate to real life. But I'm trying to use my previous experience, you know, of the world, just kind of understanding that, you know, if we have a metal rod going through something, you need something to catch that object. And if this is meant to be some sort of lock system for the door, then there should be one side that's anchored in and then one side that should retract out. And that's what I'm just assuming, or what I let my sort of intuition read from the AI image. So the AI will only take you so far. You know, you got to put in a little bit of imagination to it to take it all the way. Cool. Uh, Screwed myself here. There we go. I got what I needed, and what I wanted to do was just actually move this upward a little bit. I thought of like a nice detail as I was thinking of that. I can then select this face, bring that down and through, and I can actually have this cut a hole into that, but we won't worry about that just yet. I'm just gonna select this whole object. And hit Shift D so I can copy it over to this side and then rotate 180 degrees. Cool. Let's go back to the camera. We probably want a corrugated side, or at least, oh, that's pretty cool. We got a graphic. So the neat thing that we set over here with the AI for depth and color, it's actually going to also continue to read the image that's already on top of the geometry and kind of advance on it or build on it, right? So not only are we adding more 3D detail for the AI to do the work on, oh, excuse me, and try to save you from that. But we want to add detail with the 3D model, but we'll have the AI continue to build on top of the detail that's already present. So besides that, over here, we're getting some cool sort of breaks in the profile. So we can introduce a little bit of that here into the column just by taking these corners and pushing them in a little bit. No, geez. Sorry about that. Always got to keep water around. I'm going to go ahead and just emulate what's happening on the inside. So I'm going to put in these points right here. I'm going to go to my top view after I select them on the other side as well. This is where I see I probably should have just gone ahead and mirrored. But I can scale. I'm pushing those points out, and then I can move them forward. Put them back in. If I go to the camera view, we can see there it's like sticking out a little bit at the same height as this right here. So I think I want to just focus that on the front. Let's just have it do another pass at the side. We'll go ahead and select all the faces that we can see right there. Go into solid view rather. Selecting from solid view is gonna give you only what's seen from the camera. And we'll hit project dream texture once more. Switch over to material preview to see the work. Okay. Cool. So now that we have some detail for it to build off of, it actually starts adding in more from the prompt. So for the first time now, we see some lights coming out, some light bars right here that we can actually just go into a flat view, say, all right, I dig that. I'll add this cut right there and this cut right here. We'll do another row. And looks like it's happening from the edge. So I'll just select this face, which is solid. Put a vertical cut. I kind of like this condition as well. I think it's distorted, but I'm gonna go ahead and roll with it. Just kind of put this vertical line right here. And I'll try to put another one. Maybe not symmetrical. Maybe be just a little bit more narrow. And by select, whoops, accidentally open a Blender file. Don't you love it when that happens? I'll go ahead, select all these. Oop. I'm trying to hit Alt and I keep hitting the Windows key. There we go. Just hit Alt click there to select the whole loop, and I'll just kind of go around and take out what I didn't want. I also don't want these out of the marquee. I think it might be just easier to go through here and select in a straight line. And I'm going to hit G on the X-axis and kind of push this in. Cool. And I'll take this middle line. And first, I will push it in. Oops, I accidentally hit it. I'll push it in, and then I will extrude out just a little bit. And the reason for that is I now have this separation going on. I can just grab this edge and move it forward as well. Oh, they're still joined together. I'll try to make it seem like it was a door. That's fine. I don't have to get into all that right now. I'm just going to select these faces here, bring them forward. And then these that are supposed to be lights, I'm going to recess them in. I'm only going to pay attention to one side right now. Just kind of taking inspiration from this moment right here. Maybe add this grill as well. Oh, it looks like the extrusion might have messed up my topology. So I'm going to undo. Before I extruded the centerpiece to try to make different doors. I think that's it. If I add a loop cut now, yep. I just gotta push these around again. So these are the lights, recess them in. These are the vertical pieces, push them out, or the horizontal pieces. Add one more cut right there. Now that's clean so that I can do my cut inward. I'm actually gonna add another vertical right there for the cut, have it start somewhere slightly different and more onto the photo. Maybe on this side, I'll do, just to create more variation, I'll create two different ones. Slightly different in size. Break the symmetry. It makes it more interesting. We can push that in to add those faces, but then I want to delete those faces out so that they are kind of just openings. Cool. I'm going to go to my camera view. And hit tab. Select everything in view. And we'll go another time with project dream texture. We got to start adding some detail to the side. So luckily we did get something. We got a little bit of structure. And what I like about this is it's not the typical corrugated container for shipping, but it's actually a bit more architectural. It makes it look a bit more refined, or like it's paneled, like the future is maybe cheaper or more more like a giant Tupperware. But just gonna add some cuts like that. And maybe after adding in these cuts, I can select each face with Alt click and just Alt click all throughout. Oops, not that one. Oh, there we go. You gotta hit it on the edge that you want it at. And I'll just extrude. Oh, sorry. I want to extrude these outward. Inset faces. Let's go with that first. So we'll kind of bring the faces inward a little bit, and then we can scale them up. There we go. So we just add some structure into it. Oops, looks like I missed one right here. They're actually pretty even out for the AI to have done that. Cool. So something I wanted to do before running the AI one more time, probably for the last, is add in some cylinders myself. So I can add in a cylinder to act as a pipe. And at the moment, I'm not too concerned with like getting it to curve and all into the object. I can just kind of make a straight on pipe to push towards the bottom. Copy that, move that over to the side. Maybe something like that. And possibly a vertical one as well. Okay. Kind of change the size of it a little bit. Okay, so we have our module, right? I'm going to just start replicating this throughout and start seeing how I can start copying this module over into making a tower. So that's why we have our geometry nodes here set up. So in order to start stacking this, there's a couple things that I could do. I could duplicate it, rotate it. You know, maybe it's not even like perfect, or I can set it up as an array. Put a little bit of spacing in between them. Make like a whole level. Duplicate those arrays, kind of like how we did yesterday. But have it run in a different axis. I think there's a rotation array, but there are geometry nodes that we can use to also create these sort of manipulations. So we have the object info here. I just created a new geometry node setup right up here. Like this one doesn't have one. I could hit new to create a new one. But for this one, we already have this basic one where you hit Shift A, you can add whatever geometry node you're looking for. So we brought in object info so we can get the location, rotation, and scale of the cube, as well as manipulating the geometry itself. So we'll go ahead and select our cube as our geometry right here, selected an object info. And we can bring that geometry over into the viewer. And nothing's going to happen because what we're actually seeing is, well, we should be seeing just a normal one, at least. Where did it go? There it is. So the viewer just lets us preview whatever it is that we have in our scene, but nothing's plugged into it. I think it might be glitching out on me here. What's going on? Oh. Scale, rotation, and location. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and bypass that. I had that working just now, but it's just causing me a little bit of an issue. In any case, what we can take a look at is just how this stacks up to our overall environment. Start adding in other elements that we can start emulating this geometry or this aesthetic a little bit more. So it's kind of containers that are within these pipe structures that are holding them all together. So this is where I want to take a bigger pass at those pipes. So this whole set, for example, and just hit shift right click right there so that I can hit shift A and originate from there a cylinder. Once again, we resize that, push that outside, scale it up. There's different ways to bend pipes. I've been seeing a lot of tips on that online. And I don't think I quite remember how to do it in a curve direction. But what I'm going to do is actually do a 45-degree bend on this rather than a smooth bend. So I'll select this face down here. And on my transform tools right there, I can go to over on the left hand side, scroll down to shear. You just got to grab the right axis and pull down. Once you pull and you let go, you also get your settings right here. So you can set how much you want that to offset. So offsetting it to 1 will mean that now if I extrude, I'm going to get it moving in that direction. But really what I want is for it to extrude in the X direction. So by going in the X direction, we actually see we've retained the same size of that pipe. But what we've done here is with the shear, we've made sure that that happened, because if we had just rotated it, it would actually look a bit wonkier. Like if I were to do it, if I hadn't done the shear and I had just instead rotated this 90 degrees, you see it's already changing the shape. And then if I extrude, we actually end up with something that's flat. Even if yeah, I mean, it's just coming down to a flat point. So this is why we got our loop cut. We select this bottom face and we shear first, and we shear just to a value of 1. So that we can extrude on the x-axis, and we have a 90-degree angle coming around here. I'm going to rotate this. I mean, I want to rotate everything because it's not straight. Maybe even just count on the first one. Let's delete this block. And we'll set up an array modifier on this one. Say it's going 5 vertically. So we can have this one originate from the bottom. Just kind of turn it. Bring that all the way up. And then maybe instead of having it cross over, I'm going to have it be like some sort of bin situation. So I can extrude again and shear this way to a value of -1 for it to be in that other direction. Extrude across. Shear, oops, not that one. This way. Oh, lost my mouse. There we are. We want to shear it this way. So that'd be -2 because we have it passing 0 and going off to the other side. And then we can extrude that downward. And maybe even when it comes down here, halfway through, we'll extrude back again. We'll now shear in this direction. I know that looks weird. We want to be -1. And then if we extrude this way, we still have our pipe respecting its size. I think. Anywho, I'll just shear it back and have it terminate into this bottom one. It's almost like this bottom one could be maybe a generator. Like the containers at the bottom are power source or water supply into the above containers. Set that to 2. and have it extrude up. All right, we can get into solid view. I'm gonna enlarge this. Or rather, select the camera, go into orthographic and just kind of change the scale so I get more to fit. I can also change the resolution of my render. So since I have a tower going on, I can go 1920. So now I can actually zoom in and use this for my AI to process. If I select this and this together, both of them, I can now get it onto the pipes and onto the container. I'll zoom in. We'll project a dream texture. And this is now really only to inform on how we're going to move forward, like adding material to this piece. So no more modeling for this one as far as I'm concerned. It's enough for the background. All right, we got something really funky going on. So I think I might just add in or use these cuts for my different light pushes and pulls. So maybe these can all pull back, and then all these, except for that one, just cuz, can pull forward. All right. And I can start breaking this up just by pulling them forward and backward, just slightly. I want to do like just more towards the center and others more off to the side. Okay. So with that, I'll go into solid mode. We have it pretty well set up. And the goal here really would be able to do this with geometry nodes. But now that I have it mocked up, I have to sort of improve my geometry node game to really see how we can get this to just kind of apply in very interesting ways. There is a plugin here that I've featured before called Bigen. And there's one feature down called volume effects. We have this wire. So maybe on a plane. No, it can't be a plane because it's a volume. If I add in a really tall rectangle here, maybe even add some appliances, I can use this plugin just to quickly generate just some wires on the surface of these. And it can occupy any sort of geometry, any sort of volume, but if we go over to our rendered view, actually looks really, always hit Control A when you distort it. Control A and then hit all transforms. And there we go. We have the wires running in one direction, but going into the geometry nodes, I do know how to edit certain things. So if we go down and we look for, here we have our radius. So we can turn that down some. Oop. There we go. I don't know, there's 0 to that. They're a jumbled mess, but I'll consider modifying that further on. For now, I can consider this one module. So we can rename this collection building module. Add some textures before we let it go. So select the first container down here. We're going to disable the array on it so we can see it fully. And first we'll just add a material to the entire thing. So we can go to real-time materials, add in something metal, sci-fi metal. That sounds good. Add material. We do have to delete all the other AI generated material slots. There we go. So we only stick with sci-fi metal blocks. All right, now we got to add the lights into this. So in solid view, I can select the pieces that are pushed in, such as these. Maybe not all of them, just some. Cool. And there's actually one here that I could use as well. We go to abstract, there's a blue light. Just go ahead and apply that to a new material slot. Add material and assign to those surfaces. If we go into our rendered view now, we have those as sources of light. It'd be cool to have some on top as well. Gotta go back to solid view. There we go. Maybe for the top, we have it be a bit more regular. Go up here. And maybe do like a loop selection. That's kind of too perfect. Maybe I break it up right here. Actually, that gives me an idea. It could kind of be like a staggered loop. If I deselect this face as well, maybe I keep it onto the back. I assign that blue light to that face, but then in the front, I switch it to be these vertical. I'm just kind of messing around here, trying to make this somewhat unique. Whoops. I made everything blue. There we go. All right, we can add another material for the pipe. So rather than using that other metal, we can use, what is this? All over, what is this called? All over something? All over slime. No, not so much. Noisy wireframe. Tech metal glow. Well, I'm gonna use that on the other wires, but let's go with rusty. Rusty. And then for the wires, we first have to add the material that we want. So with the wire selected, I'll add a new material slot just to assign it here. And we'll go to that tech metal. And I have to edit this in the geometry node. So we have right here, we have our materials assigned, which is a wire material. We want to just switch that over into our tech metal glow. Maybe we could even use two different ones. So if I add a new material slot here, we can duplicate that tech metal glow by selecting it again, hitting the copy button right here, and we could change the color. So we could have it be like a cyan and purple color. We just have to have one of these set to that. Nice. Then we can mess with, let's see, glow strength. We can tweak all of that later. Glow scale. Ooh, interesting. Let's select the blue one now and bring down the glow scale. Maybe too much. All right. We got to smart UV project onto these pipes. We'll bring back that array. So we have all that applied to all of them. And this is only going to work in one direction for the camera, but same as yesterday, this is like a proof of concept for this piece. I wonder, I'm going to save. And I'm going to do a save as. We might just go back, but I'm curious if Now with all this material and all this work done on top of the AI image, what's it going to look like if I run the same prompt once again over this entire thing? Hopefully I don't crash. In fact, let me apply the array so it can maybe even do something different throughout all those different containers. So we'll go back to dream textures and we'll just run the same thing. Maybe we'll give it more steps and we'll decrease the noise threshold so that we stay truer to the original image. And steps from 60 to, let's go 75. I'm going to do this twice if I'm able to. I would like to, on the first try, just do the Euler discrete that we're used to using on this file. So that's sort of what we got. Maybe we need to add more noise. And the next one, we're going to try Euler discrete ancestral, just to kind of see the difference there. Doesn't seem like it's updating. I think because I have to assign it to everything. Let's see. No, that's the image it came up with, apparently. Yep, it stayed really close to the original image. That's fine. We'll go back to the original. I don't want to overcomplicate it with the sci-fi aspect. At this point, I'm just going to bring this into the original file and start laying it out. If any viewers have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them now as I start wrapping up. Okay, we go over and we can save this original file. We can go to our main file, and as we did before, set an origin point right here. I'm going to get out of material preview. It takes up quite a bit of resources. File, append. We're going to bring in, ooh, there we go, our container. All right, so in order to make a tower out of this, we're going to take it and I'm going to use a geometry node setup ultimately, but we can set the whole building. Oh, looks like it got our collection for this building got nestled in the other one. So we'll just drag that out. Select right here, select objects, Control J. Ooh, before you Control J, apply the array on this one. There we go. Now we select everything again and Control J. So we should have that already in its textures with all the material slots that we had said before. It's just one object so that we could start arraying it vertically. So we could set up array modifier. And just start building this up. So there we can have one section. We can then put this next to these tall towers we're supposed to start having over here. I suppose that this container is correctly to scale. If I put it close towards the building. Actually, I have no way of knowing if the building is actually to scale as well. The car is really my only real reference. Let's see. Because everything else is just built on photos. I think it's about right. I think everything can get... Well, the container's too small. So the container should be more like that size. And then the building could afford to make it slightly bigger as well. I'm going to disable the ivy layer here. There we go, no more leaves. So with that, to that size, I'll make this larger. Make sure my textures are all good and neat. Yep. So this could use some refinement, but for now, I'm going to use this as a module, copy that over, copy it over again, so I can have it several times, rotate it, move it up, maybe duplicate it, rotate it again, and scale it up. So it looks kind of weird what I'm doing here, but as we're passing through, and we have this whole building also to select from, so we'll do the same thing. Select this building, Control J, save, and we'll add a modifier to array this several times over on the y-axis, maybe by a distance of 4, -4, just on the y-axis, and maybe -3, -2. Yep. Just increase their count. And as I drive through, we have the mix of one type of building with the other. So it kind of transitions right here because of the barricade. So I want some of those buildings as well, I think, to be nestled up on this second floor. So I'm just going to Alt-D to duplicate this as an instance. Maybe just like shift it over. Maybe slightly rotate it like it's on a diagonal. Maybe this one starts off as a second story there, and we actually have this raising just a slight bit as it moves over. This is again just a test so we could see if I snap a frame right here. Suppose I want to move all that together. There we go. How does that look aesthetically? Give that a second to switch into rendered view. I'm going to start hiding some things so we don't need the floor. We don't need all these fancy buildings. Okay, so I definitely went maybe a little bit too sci-fi with it. We have the car in focus right now. I'm just going to take out the depth of field in the camera for now. So I like the copper. I like the copper with the brick. And I know I'm going to like it with the green on there. We just lost the green in the process of mocking this up. But basically, I'm going to keep the rust. I think I want to keep the lights, but let's see what I can do about this rusted material. I think I should make these containers like either like a dark, deep green or a lighter bluish, grayish metal. So let's see if we can do something about that. The metal blocks. There we go. So we said something like a dark green. Make it like a very light piece right there. And then the other color. Looks like I want to do the opposite. So I want to lighten this one up. But not so much. That's too saturated. Let's go green and then let's go dark. Yeah, I'm not liking the blue. The blue with the orange here. Maybe just no color. Maybe just a dark gray. Just copy from the reference. We'll keep it at a dark gray. Not so dark. And make it a bit rougher, give it more scale so it has more detail. Yeah, I think I like the gray. It's not so distracting. I can go over to the blue light and change the hue on that as well. Orange is kind of nice. I think I will do orange. It could also vary from building to building. Then we did have those wires running up on the other side, which are seen down here. Maybe with the orange, we want to do like yellow on the wires. So we can tech metal glow. There we are. Switch that over to a yellow. And the other one maybe to just a white. Actually, it kind of, I don't know why, like giving me Roman vibes now, like future Roman or Spartan vibes. So I'm going to lean into that. Cool. Now comes the tricky part. I'm going to select these, duplicate them over one more time. Who am I kidding? It's not one more time. Join those two together. So now they're just one object. And I can now start to get a little weird with it. So I can, rather than Shift D, I'll do Alt D. So I can duplicate into an instance. And since these are just background elements, I can just kind of do whatever. Just whatever looks compositionally good to the camera. So now that I've figured out aesthetic and composition, before I set all this correctly, you know, or properly, which would require a little bit of tweaking, I'm just gonna, from the top view, like kind of like a plan view, do several copies of this building. And by using Alt D, I'm really not taxing my computer too much longer or too much more. I can just go for what looks good here. I can also open up a bit of the timeline down here. So I can cycle through some animations. Open up the timeline. There we go. And we can see when the buildings come in. But I think I generally do want to keep the depth of field on to the vehicle. Maybe not as harsh as it is right now, but so you can see some detail into the building. So we'll zoom in over here, add some more to the f-stop. There we go. I think we can even take this to 2.4 without really asking for too much. There we go. So you start to see some detail on the architecture as we're driving by. We got to change out this sky. So I'm going to go into my world or real-time, what is Blender Kit? I'm going to go into the Blender Kit plugin, go to HDRs, and there's actually a bunch of HDRs here for free of Venice, which is the inspiration for this location. So once, here we go. If I just switch from scene to HDR, it gets unstuck. And I want to pick one of these dawn sunset shots, not something as bright as this, so that I can really like bring out those lights. Although there is, you know, some ambient light, I'm going to have the light on the vehicles also have a chance to sort of shine. Guess literally. I'm a bit torn in between these two, sunrise or dawn. I think I'm gonna pick, I I'm going to pick this dawn. Give that a moment to download. And we just got to rotate it so we just get pure sky in the background. We don't get any ginormous buildings. We'll go into our shader editor, go into world, zoom in to our mapping right here and rotate it. So just continue to rotate until you get a clean shot of sky. There we go. Oh, we could actually, that could be interesting. Have a little bit of color. So it's sort of backlit. That actually works great if it's backlit because we'll have some light right here so we could see the shadow. Okay. First off, let's turn off any extra lights in the scene. So we have a sun. I'm going to turn that off. There we go. That's what was messing us up. So here's that lighting situation. So what's cool here is we're getting some very subtle lighting on the side of the car coming from the sky. I know it's kind of hard to see with all this all this weird material. So in order to preview lighting, we always want to go to our overrides right here. And we just want to select the material that is blank. In this case, this one's a dark color, which is fine. But I'll go ahead and mess with it for a second. Let's see. I wanted to make this... Well, even that's interesting. We just see everything in purple. Oops. Created more views than I meant to here. Okay. So yeah, we could just see it in purple. We get a soft, real light from the sky. We could see it also on the tower here. It's like side lit from the sunset. But then the headlight is really popping through. Really giving focus to this part of the scene right here. And if I add another car... Oh, come on. Where's your... Oh, I didn't give it headlights as well. We select these lights so that car is not by itself. All right, that can also, if there's multiple vehicles, or when I put in multiple vehicles, we can have that light shining forward too. We can actually switch it from a point light to an area light, should be more accurate. Have it face sort of forward. And yeah, and create some interesting highlights this way. So I like this lighting setup. If we take away our material override now, give it a second. It's kicking back full throttle. All right, we also get the lights from the buildings making an appearance. This brings me back to the inspiration board too, because there was one building over here that had like a light streak cut in through it. There we go. I wanted to do something like that, so I can just mark that out now to kind of use this style, but have one of these buildings. If I look through the timeline, what's the right building to use? Maybe something, once he breaks through the gate, there's a gate moment right here. He breaks through the gate, we leave the gate behind, and we can see the light shine brighter after he's broken through. Maybe we add that onto this building. Let's see. We'll just add it in the form of a plane, rotate it 90, scale Z, and give this an emission. New emission material, and just have it glow bright red. We can even make that into a gradient, but that's fine. I can make it a tad more interesting, sort of like the reference by grabbing a corner and pulling it in two sides. Nice. And so right here, this is the idea, is that we could have this, let me give it a base color that's not white, or like an orange. The emission could be like at 30 or 40 down here. Like pretty bright, but pretty saturated. And then as we move forward, it breaks through the gate. It can then burst up really, really bright. And you can't really see the difference now, but if I add in a UV sphere, just to preview, I know this looks crazy, but this is how we fake volumetrics. And go to, I'm just gonna delete the principled BSDF right here. So remove, go into volume, and set the volume to scatter. Where am I? There you go, volume scatter. Decrease the density to like 0.001. And it's still a bit hard to see, but if we kick in a denoiser, there's kind of like a fog effect now that kind of looks like a plastic wrap effect. So when we bring up the intensity of this rectangle right here, no, it won't let me, gotta turn this sphere into a wireframe. So I'm not always accidentally selecting it. There we go. You select the plane. When it's this intense, we have this kind of a glow. It's like even hitting this building off to the side quite intensely. So it'll light up the building next to it, because if we go back here and look at that building, it's not as bright as when it's right here. So maybe there's other ways we can make that intensity shine more. There's also post-processing effects that can be done for that. But as far as what we have up to here, this is pretty cool. You start putting incandescent lights down here, meaning almost like it's candlelit. Or industrial lights also that'd be cool, actually, instead of being like thinking of it as candlelit, more like industrial lights that are warm lights. So it's the same mood as the era that the architecture was built in, but it's sort of like an industrial, more futuristic adaptation to the architecture. Make it a tad warm. Here we go. For preview purposes only. All right, we're gonna end this stream here. It's still under development, of course, but the architecture is starting to settle in, right? Yesterday I went over how to make this whole building, and I kind of made it into one asset that I can use now. Now I've created this tower module, which now off stream I'll clean up for further use. And if I can make one of these assets a day, we'll be all right for, well, for the environment, there shouldn't be many more assets to be done. But if I can make one more asset a day for the rest of the week, then we should have the environment well on its way, and we can focus the rest of the time on the car animation. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Always a pleasure to have you, and I'll see you in the next stream.